I'd like to share something with you. It's a list of things that I employ on a regular basis that assists me in improving my art. And you might find it odd that there's nothing on this list that has anything directly to do with drawing or painting. Greetings, everyone, and thanks for joining the Inside Arthead podcast. It's here we'll explore the inspiration, motivation, process, and fulfillment of creating art. I'm your host, Roni Zulu, bringing you inspirational stories from artists around the world. If we were to seek advice or a list of things presented to us that would help us improve our art, we would assume that that list would include what paints to buy, the brushes to buy, the canvas we should use, how to improve our technique, so on and so forth. But there's another list, kind of an unspoken list, that affects your art, and you may not think it does. It's those things that you do every day. It's how you live your life and how you process the world around you. That's the list I want to talk about, and some practices that would help you improve your art by the things that you do on a regular day-to-day basis. Let's start with one of my favorite, in no particular order. Journaling. I journal every day. I write down my thoughts, the things that have happened to me, and the things that I might wish for. And also journaling helps bring abstract thought, because thought is abstract, into the concrete real world. If there's something I want to do, I got to get it out of my head and then bring it into the real world. And journaling helps me do that. I take it from the abstract, and with pen and paper, I've now brought that into the real world. So I've gotten one step closer to my goal from getting it out of my head, speaking it, and then putting it on paper and then acting from there. Journaling will help you do that. And journaling is also a safe place to put your thoughts that you wouldn't tell anyone else. But there are those things that happen, or thoughts we have that we need to get out, but we don't necessarily need to tell someone. We need to just get them out. Journaling is a good way to have that chat with oneself. Another one is the importance of a supportive network, people that you respect and trust, and to engage with them. This is one I have to work on because being an oil painter, I spend many hours sitting alone in my studio creating or preparing to create. But I have to take myself out of that. I have to remove myself from my studio and go out and interact in the world, because those interactions and those relationships and those experiences will affect in some way what I put on canvas. Another one is the balance of being open-minded and being steadfast. This is a tricky one because there are times where we need to be open-minded. There are times when the things that we're used to doing in a particular way may be presented to us not necessarily a better way, but sometimes just a different way for a different experience might be helpful to you. And there are times when you need to stick to your guns because you know that this certain thing works for you. So that being aware of steadfastness and open-mindedness, and don't fear being open-minded, because as humans, we tend to not like change. Be open to change, because that change may affect how you paint, how you do your art. You might try a new technique you've never done before. You might paint in a different style you've never done before. So being open-minded will definitely affect how your art can be improved. Another one is the importance of downtime. We all need alone time to think our own thoughts that aren't influenced by someone else. And when I say downtime, I don't mean you just being alone. I also mean you turning off your electronic devices and your social media. Because when you're on those devices, you're not alone. You're connected to the rest of the world. Put all those things down. Sit in your backyard. Go to the beach. Take a long walk. Do something solitary to where you can let go and just be with yourself and let your mind just be calm with no other influences. Because that serenity and that sense of peacefulness will be reflected in your art. Another one that I find very important is finding a hobby, and particularly a hobby that will never make you one red cent, that you'll never get paid for. A hobby that the only reason you do this is because it brings you happiness. And for me, I have quite a few hobbies like that. I'm a falconer. I like to build model ships. I could go on and on. I'm never going to get paid for these, but these are things that I engage in, that I put effort into, knowing that the only payment I'm going to receive is happiness. And I don't expect anything else out of that except to be happy. Being happy is one of the things we all want, and you can get happiness if you have something that you do that happiness is easily attainable, because you're not shooting for some lofty goal of making thousands or millions of dollars from this. You just want to be happy. Find something that you do that just makes you happy, because that happiness will be reflected in your art. One should push oneself to their potential, but not beyond human limitations. This is an important thing to practice because, of course, we want to be the best us that we can be. And the only way you can do that is always strive to be a little bit better. But that can get dangerous when we are striving to be superhuman. None of us are supermen. We all have flaws. We all make mistakes. And no one is perfect. So I wouldn't say strive for perfection. Strive for the best that you can be, and know that there are limitations on being human, and keep that in mind. Because if you do that, when you're striving to be a better artist, you won't fall into this pit of despair because you're not reaching this goal or that goal. But you will be rewarded when you're sitting at your easel or you're drawing and you're painting, when you know that you have at least done your best, and your best is plenty. Another on my list is to gain some type of knowledge every day. Every day, be able to say, I know something today that I didn't know yesterday. And it doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to go from being a burger cook yesterday to a rocket science today. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't care what it is. Maybe you learned a new recipe. The other day, I learned a new way to tie my shoes that was better than the day before. So it doesn't have to be this crazy profound thing. Just learn something, because knowledge is power. And the more you know, well, the more powerful you are. So exercise the fact that you have the ability to be a powerful person just by learning something new every day. And eventually that learning will be reflected in your artwork, because there will be a progression that is evident. This one is very, very important. If you have a partner, if you have a family, set time aside from work at a particular time that is their sacred time. This is what I have to be aware of. Being a painter, I'm up in my studio and time gets lost. I can stay in there for endless hours, but I'm married. I have a relationship that's very important to me. And at a certain time, I have to call the end of a day the end of the day, and just put down the paintbrushes and go spend time with loved ones. because I hope I don't need to tell you how important that is and how that will most definitely affect you, how you present yourself to your canvas. If you feel loved and you are maintaining loving relationships with your spouse, your friends, your dog, your cat, that love is going to be translated into your art. Here's another one that's very important. Vacations. Going on holiday, if you will. Basically, getting away from your usual environment to something different. That's very important for me. Once again, being an oil painter, I'm locked into my studio for hours and hours and hours. What will my paintings be like if that is the only environment I ever saw? I've got to get out. I've got to get away. And I don't mean just going downstairs and sitting in my garden. No, I need to get away from my home environment. I need to just go to a park or go on a vacation out of town. I'm not saying you have to, if you live in the U.S., you got to go to Paris. I mean, do that. I've done it. It's awesome. I suggest it, particularly if you're a painter. But just remove yourself from your daily environment into something that you're not used to, because for one thing, you're going to have to deal with something that you're not used to, which is a good skill to acquire. And you're going to be influenced by things and see things and experience things that you would not experience in your usual environment at home. And trust me, it should be obvious that by doing that, it will influence your art. Rewarding yourself with a physical gift. I think this is a very important thing. We struggle as artists, or whatever your career may be, and we fight and we push. What's the point of all of this if there's never a reward? And I say a physical reward is needed once in a while, because it's a token. It's something you can pick up and say, you know what? This came into my life because I earned it. And I'm not saying it has to be some insane thing like go out and buy a Rolex watch every weekend or that. No, it could be very simple. If take yourself out to dinner, or just get yourself a little tchotchke that you put on your desk, or I don't know what it is. Buy yourself a rose and put it in a vase and stick it on your desk. And whenever you see that rose, it reminds you, you know what? Hard work pays off. Look what I got. I got this pretty rose, or I've got this little thing over here. Or I bought myself, a matcha latte at the local coffee place where I usually don't do that, but I'm going to do that today because I've been working hard. Give yourself a physical gift once in a while. Give yourself a token of appreciation from you, because that will definitely affect you wanting to continue your art and wanting to continue your pursuits because they are rewarded. Create an inspiring work environment. This goes for artists, and it goes, I'm going to say particularly more so for those who are not artists. Those who might sit in a cubicle. Put something in there that makes you happy. It could be a picture of your family, picture of your dog, a little tchotchke on your desk, a little statue of something. Create a work environment that makes you happy. And to me, I'm a painter, as you know. In my area, there's all kinds of funny little things in there, from Star Wars figures to comic book posters. There's stuff everywhere in my studio. And it's that way because when I walk into my studio, it feels good to be in there. I'm excited to be there. When I open my eyes and I look around my studio, I'm like, man, what a great place. This is so awesome to be there. Make your work environment, no matter what it is, make it an awesome place to be there. Because if you feel awesome in your work environment, well, that, of course, is going to affect your art and your performance. A big one. Learn from others in your field and respect that they probably may know more than you do. This is constructive criticism, and no one can get anywhere without it. Always accept constructive criticism from those that you respect. Actually, I would say seek it out. It is imperative. Have conversations with people much older than you. I have found this to be so important, and I have found it to be a wonderful thing when I least expect it. I'll be out in the world and I'll happen to run into someone much older than me, and they'll start to talk, because you'll find that older people like to tell stories about their lives, and we benefit from that. We get a direct look into the past and into experiences. And let me tell you, I have learned so much from conversations with people so much older than me, or I at least have been taken back and felt emotions that I would not have if this person did not, if they did not share the richness of their life stories. And let me tell you, when older people pass that on to you, it is a treasure. And I can guarantee you, somehow, consciously or subconsciously, that treasure will be evident in your artwork. Pass your knowledge down to others. I don't know who wrote it or how it's been said, something about a candle isn't dimmed by lighting another candle. All it does is bring more light into the room. Pass down what you know. I am so fortunate to have so many art instructors put me on the right path and to help me. So why wouldn't I pass that down? Some people want to hoard knowledge. So maybe they think, well, I know this and nobody else does. So therefore, I'll have the edge on things, and my work will have things that no one else has because I kept these secrets. That's not how it works. It works the opposite. When you pass on your knowledge, then the whole art world becomes brighter. Always pass on what you've learned. Don't be afraid to ask questions because you think that you'll look dumb. I am a question asking fool. I am constantly asking questions. And I'll give you a funny example. I was at a party once and someone used a word that I knew but couldn't define. And I was seeking knowledge. So I said, could you please tell me that word? Would you define that for me? Because I've used it into a sentence before, but I'm not sure if I could actually define it. And then some knucklehead sitting next to me said, oh, what's your problem? You don't even know what that word means? And then I asked him, okay, you tell me what it means. And from him, all I got was, duh. He didn't know. He tried to say what it was, but he used it in a sentence. And I said, no, define it. So then I told him, will you shut up and let this fella tell me what the word is? And he finally defined it. I did not fear looking stupid or a person who had lacking knowledge. You will find that often when you ask a question, it is a sign of your intelligence because you're the person in the room who wants to gain knowledge. And knowledge, once again, is power. One of the toughest ones, accepting, this is a funny word, but we'll use it, mistakes. Are they really mistakes? Well, we got to call them something. We'll just say that when things don't turn out the way you expected them to be. That word mistakes, yeah, like I say, it's kind of funny, but they're necessary. Mistakes are a part of the process of elimination. It's like when I'm sketching a painting and I might be at a process and say, no, I don't like how the arm falls. I'm going to redraw that. I'm going to redraw the foot position. Or I draw the head. No, I don't like the way I'm going to turn that head a few degrees. Are those mistakes? No, those are adjustments. Those are the process of elimination. And that's life. So when something's happening in life and it doesn't exactly turn out the way you wanted it, you just make an adjustment and you learn from it. Just like when I'm drawing and I look at something and I say, I don't like the way that looks. I make a revision. Mistakes allow us to make revisions. So don't look at mistakes as failures. What they are is little things that point to a revision that needs to be made. And you do so, and you move closer to your goal. This probably should have been number one. Integrity. Integrity is everything. You must have it, because if you lose it, chances are you'll never get it back. Be who you are. To thine own self be true. What does that mean? That's that old phrase that we've heard a million times. To thine own self be true. What it means, well, poetically said that way, but it means today, don't lie to yourself. Be who you are. If you paint yellow ducks, but everyone else is painting blue eggs, keep painting yellow ducks. Don't change just because that's what's cool or that's what's hip. And the funny thing about that, you think you'll do better if you start painting the blue eggs because everyone's painting the blue eggs. But the opposite happens. Now you're just in the herd. You're just the masses. You probably didn't realize that in a room of 1,000 blue eggs, your one yellow duck stands out, and it's the thing that everyone sees first when they walk into that room. Keep your integrity. To thine own self be true, and make sure that is a part of your art creating process. Ignoring naysayers. You got to do it. Because I'm telling you, I have learned that the more successful that I have become in my career, the more haters I get. I didn't expect that in the beginning, but it's part of the journey. People are jealous. And when you get successful, there are those people out there that are going to hate you. They're going to have this terrible thing inside of them. Well, why does he get to do that? I don't get to do that. Well, you don't get to do that because you didn't put in the work that I did. Because anybody can do what I do. So ignore the naysayers, especially in the beginning, because anything that exists in this world at one time didn't, and at one time was new. And I can bet you at that time of it being new, there were those that said, you're crazy. That's never been done. No, it's never been done. Don't tell me that, because that'll make me want to do it. There's a thing called, well, what I call believing in what you believe. You must believe in what you believe. And you might be saying, Zulu, that doesn't make any sense. If I believe in something, I believe in it. I don't need to believe in what I believe. I'll give you an example. I believe that I could make a substantial, great living being an artist. I actually believe that. But when I find myself out in the world, I realize that it's a bit of a struggle. I go through a starving artist phase. Other people might even say, you should get a real job. And at that point, I start believing or thinking, yes, I believe I could be a good artist, but gosh, it's so hard, and chances are I'm not going to make it because the percentages of artists who do well is very low, blah, 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 blah. Now you start believing that story. Even though you believe that you potentially could be an artist, you start believing that there's a high probability that you will not do well as an artist. At that point, you don't believe what you believe. Forget all that other bullshit. Forget that chatter and that story. Don't believe that. Believe what you believe. Believe that you can be an artist. Here's one that is tricky and it's big. Never be offended by the truth. I'm going to say that again. Never be offended by the truth. There's so many times we find ourselves at odds with other people. And you have to recognize that when those times come up and someone says something to you that you find unsavory, but if what they said is the truth, then you can't be offended by it. You cannot be offended by the truth. Never be offended by the truth. Always accept constructive criticism. You can only be offended by a lie. And then you take offense to a lie by just paying it no attention. You almost aren't even offended by it. You just let it go. But if someone says something about you and you don't particularly like it, or they say something about your art and you don't particularly like it, but if it's the truth, do not take offense to it. Accept it. And if you want to change what that truth is, then change what you're doing. Never be offended by the truth. My last point today is always accept others' success. And I mean always. Even if Joe over there, you don't particularly care for him, but he does well at work and he gets some award, you celebrate that because he did well. I don't care who he is. Always celebrate the success of others if you expect others to celebrate your success. Our jealousies often keep us from celebrating the success of others. If we're in some kind of competition, let's say I'm in an art competition, and this guy's painting beats mine. Well, I'm supposed to go over there and shake his hand and say, geez, oh whiz, that painting's amazing. And do it genuinely. I'm not talking about fake. If he wins, you be happy for him. It reminds me when I ran track in high school, if there's 5 of us running the 100-yard dash, it was such a beautiful thing that would happen. The guy who won would always come and shake the hand of everyone he ran against. And he would tell him, gosh, that was a tough race. You guys were on my ass. And the guys who came in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, even though they lost, would go up to the winner and shake his hand and say things like, geez, oh whiz, man, you're fast. We would just celebrate each other and be in awe of each other's talents. That's what I mean. Always celebrate the success of others, and others will celebrate your success. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my little list of how to improve yourself as an artist that had nothing to do with drawing or painting. And I would ask that if you did enjoy it, check out some of my other videos. I think you'll get a kick out of those. And until the next time, be well.